How's it going, everybody? Savvier saying, what is good to all my Super Saiyan homies? Here to bring you Dragon Ball Legends anime and manga content. If you enjoy the video and you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. And if you do end up subscribing, leave a comment down below. Let me know you did, because I super duper Saiyan appreciate all of you guys. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight. Like I said a couple of videos ago, I'm trying not to be just Legends. Like I say, Dragon Ball Legends anime and manga content, so like I want to be Dragon Ball Legends anime and manga content, you know? So we're going to try to be doing more of those. Like I think the goal is, I'll probably do like 3 showcases a week, a summons video, and like 3 anime discussions a week or manga discussions a week. I think that sounds pretty fair. Let me know what you guys think of that down in the comments. If you guys are like cool with that, if you guys are like, yo, go fuck yourself, like just play Legends, you stupid fuck, in which case, I'll feed into my anxiety and just play nonstop. But anyway, I wanted to do this video because I actually have been watching a lot of Geekdom's Debunked videos. Don't know why, just one like randomly popped up on my home feed. Like I'm subscribed to Geekdom, have been for a while. It's not like it's anything new. Just one popped up, and I just like started watching a bunch of old ones. And I was scrolling through Facebook, oddly enough, and I just like stumbled on this article. And I have to say, I haven't been like this annoyed by an article in like quite some time, because like. So here's the thing. If you guys know what Anime Underground is, if you guys know who Ranker is, I don't necessarily think they're a bad site. Like the stuff where it's like especially because even on this list, like you could see like you can up or down vote like the things that are there. For me, like, they have, like, lists and stuff like that that'll be, like, top 50, like, OP anime characters, top 50 most annoying anime characters and stuff like that. And there's no explanations or anything like that. They're just, like, voted on. Like, people will just vote up or down, like, to see who it is. And it's literally just voted on by the people. And, like, those I actually really, really like. And they've, like, exposed me to, like, characters and animes that, like, I've never would have, like, thought of on my own free will. And so for that, I happen to like them a lot. But, like... This article by this Anna Lindwasser, she clearly did not do her research and like just clearly wasn't paying attention when she wrote this article, and that's just kind of that. So like let's go into it. I'm not gonna go too much more of that. It just like, as Geekdom kind of says, if you do like any basic research, like you can kind of prove these things like aren't the case. So we'll start with number 1, and we'll go with the broken clock theory. A broken clock is right twice a day. Minata should have been expelled. Yes, I absolutely agree with this. She says at one point, where does it say it? She says at one point that these kids are training to be heroes, which means that they can be held to a high moral standard. I absolutely agree with this. That this might be the only one on the list that has any credibility. There may be 1 or 2 more. We'll get there. We'll get there as we go. But in reality, she's right about this. Mineta does a lot of, like he's like a very controversial character, and like I know there's a lot of pervy characters in anime and whatnot, but he absolutely, yeah, he's too far, he's too much. So yeah, I think him being expelled, that's fair. That's fair to say. Next we have how did Invisible Girl get into UA? I'm not gonna bother saying the name and everything right now. This one's kind of interesting because I see where people are coming from on this one. Like, she didn't learn the light refraction quirk for quite some time, like until after she was in UA. And like, well, yes, there is value to her quirk, I guess, after the fact. Like, she didn't necessarily get those until like she started learning in UA. And so it becomes, how did she do it? Well, we know from like all these little like clips in between, like those little info slides that we get in between the episodes. We know that she had a really good score on the written test, the intellectual test. I think she has like a 4 out of 5 or something like that. So she does really, really well on that. But the thing that like everybody kind of forgets about, and like there's a theory about like, oh, like there was an off button for the robots and like she's invisible, so like they would have never seen her coming and she could have just turned them all off. The thing that everybody forgets is there's also rescue points. Like you get points for rescuing other students, civilians and stuff like that. So like she very well could have accumulated like rescue points and stuff like that. At least enough rescue points as well as the written test and all that stuff to have done well enough to have still passed, to have still got in. It's not that far-fetched that she made it into UA, especially because she has invisibility. Like, invisibility is a valuable quirk regardless of all that. So like at the bare minimum, they could have just seen her quirk as valuable and been like, all right, you know what, we need to, you know, accept her, at least bare minimum, accept her into the program and try and hone it in. That is the biggest stress you can give it. But again, there are rescue points involved in the entrance exam. Literally, she could have just rescued other students and civilians and all that stuff and would have been fine. Not a plot hole. All right, moving forward. This is the one that made me want to do this video. This had me heated. Transferring One for All to Bakugo made no sense. Well, it was in a non-canon movie. That's it. There's no other point to make here. It was in a non-canon movie. It did not happen. Like, it happened for all of our visual enjoyment, and that's it. It wasn't supposed to make sense. It wasn't supposed to be the greatest plot line of all time, because he even, like, it magically, like, vanishes from him at the end of the movie, too. But, like, it's non-canon. All the movie is there for is to generate revenue and for us to go, ooh, ah, how pretty, wow. That's it. Nothing else. Like, good lord. Come on, just do any basic research there. Next, Tomoru's quirk should cause more problems. No, the video didn't just stop. No, it didn't just freeze. I lost brain cells reading it again out loud. This just shows impatience. Yes, his quirk is devastating. There's no arguing that. The war right now, the Paramount War? Absolutely. And I'm not even reading the manga. I try to leave this as spoiler-free as possible in terms of the manga. I love My Hero's voice actors. I just find it so emotionally powerful that I try to leave it as the only show that I leave anime only. It is genuinely the only series I try to leave anime only. Other than that, I'll read the manga as well. That is, you know, I try to do both. But I know what's going on in the Paramount War, you know? It's like, because I don't live under a rock. Like, literally, this is just impatience. And I'm just like, I'm not sure, like, what... She's like, he's impacted by... There's no reason why... hold on. Oh, yeah, like... She talks about how, like, no matter how careful he would be, like, it should just, like, destroy everything and anything he's around, and, like, anything and everything he's touched. Like, he wouldn't have clothes, he wouldn't have a bed, he wouldn't have this, he wouldn't have that. It's just like, no, that's not a plot hole. Like, obviously he's gained control over his quirk over time. You know, maybe that's like how he discovered his quirk in the first place, was like shit was just getting destroyed and managed to get a handle on it, you know? Like, he's not a child. Like this isn't a plot hole. And, like, again, you get to, like, it's impatience. Like, you get to the Paramount War, and his quirk is literally devastating. It destroys, like, an entire city. Like, it... Oh, God. It's just so stupid. Oh, please go away. Alright. Alright. Next up, this one's kind of weird. Oop, I just hit my microphone. I'm so sorry, people, for anybody I just deafened. Some of the quirks are pretty impossible to even figure out in the first place. I suppose. But, like, there's kind of... Like, there's always an accidental circumstance for everything. Like, yes, she brings up Stain, and Stain is probably the best example of this. Because, like, how would he, like, just go around licking blood and, like, finding out that paralyzes people for, you know, a different amount of time and whatnot? You know what? This one, that might be the only other fair one on here. But, like, again, like, the sky is the fucking limit. It's a goddamn manga. It's a comic book, for God's sake. It's a story. It's like, it's not a plot hole that, like, he eventually discovered his quirk somehow. You know, you could write in and I'm not trying to fill in the blanks here. I'm not trying to write in, you know, Stain's backstory or anything like that, because you don't need to. Like, it's so unnecessary. It's so ridiculous. Like, it's not a plot hole like how he discovered his quirk. You don't need to mention how every single character discovered their quirk. It'd be nice, but like, there's a lot of freaking people in this world. So like, just to not mention his full backstory and like how he discovered his quirk as a child is like, come on, really? Like, it's such a stretch, and clearly, like, even already at number 5 was just trying to fill out the list. Like, no, this just you don't like. Yes, characters need backstory. Backstories are great, but it's not. No, it's not a plot hole. So here she talks about Night Eye's quirk and how it's kind of contradictory. No. Like, she talks about how like Eri and Midoriya, like, and that whole thing with the rewind and whatnot, and how that changes people's timelines and everything. Like the quirk, like Eri's quirk, rewinding stuff. How it's never mentioned how, like, you know, that would affect Night Eye's quirk and his judgment ability. It's never mentioned before that. Why would it ever be mentioned before that? It never happened before. Why would it ever have been brought up? Like, that was the writing solution to Midoriya not dying to Night Eye's quirk. And Night Eye is like freaking shocked by the fact that it didn't happen. Like, just on his freaking deathbed. Like, he's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I was wrong? Are you kidding me? I've never been wrong. This has never happened before. So, like, this one is just ridiculous to me. Like, he blatantly accepts that he was wrong the one time. It's not a contradiction. It's like, it is one plot point to forward on the story, and it's like, it had never happened before. Like, no one else had ever rewound someone else's timeline with their quirk. It had never happened before. How is he supposed to know that does anything? It's not a contradiction. It's a plot line. It's a plot point. It's how you further the story so that, you know, your protagonist doesn't fucking die. Like, good lord. This list just gets so silly. Like, it's so silly to me, and I can't. I just don't understand how people don't even do like the basic research that they claim to be doing when they're like, oh, it's a plot hole. Todoroki shouldn't be able to use both of his quirks simultaneously at the sports festival, and he does state at one point, you know, I can't use both of them simultaneously. Look, obviously, Todoroki to up until literally this fight favors using the ice all the time. He only ever uses the ice. He doesn't use the fire. He has a basic amount of training with it because of his dad, but like, he doesn't use it. He uses the ice all the time, and he even states during the sports festival it's like MP in a video game, you know, or rather Bakugo I think states it, but regardless, there's only so much effort you can use. There's only so much, like, quirk energy, I guess, for lack of a better term. I don't know. I don't really know what to call it. There's only so much, you know, energy and power you can exert with your quirk before, you know, you're kind of depleted and running on fumes. Bakugo himself has, like, even fizzled out before, you know, and is, like, not able to cause as many explosions. And so she even says right here, like, Todoroki's running off of adrenaline at the end of the fight with Midoriya, and it's the only time we ever, like, really see him use both. You know, I think actually now in the war he's used both again, but I don't know for sure because, again, I'm not reading the manga, so I don't know for sure. So don't quote me on that. But it's like that's it. That's the only time he ever does it. It's the one time on adrenaline. That's it. It's not a plot hole. Like, they explain these things in the sports festival. It's MP. It's a one-time thing. It's like that one adrenaline boost of like, all right, I'm going to use it all out. Midoriya does the same. Like, Midoriya has freaking broken limbs and is still using one for all with his broken limbs. He shouldn't be able to re-break his finger to fire out a smash, but he does. Like, come on, stop. That's silly. Momo's quirk defies basic science. Oh, you know what? I don't actually remember what my argument was for this one. Hold on a second. Editing magic. I'm going to pause this and we're going to relearn. Alright.
excuse me on that one. Editing magic is going to be powerful on that one. I just went back and reread what I had written down, because sometimes I try to do these things off memory and I just like forget a little bit. So yeah. So she talks about how there's no reason why they should be defying basic science. Uraka's quirk, Uravity's quirk, is literally to defy gravity. Her quirk literally is to defy science! Like, what do you mean they give no reason to ignore basic science? It's a comic book. It's a manga. It's a story. It's the most basic playground to ignore basic science. It's not even funny. Like, it's not. That's the first thing. That's the most basic part of it. Second of all, she understands, like, she has to understand the molecular structure of it. It does not say that these things have to be of equal weight and proportion, or equal weight. She could be making them proportionally based on, or she's making them proportionally based on to the lipids and fats that she has. She's not. She's not just randomly, like, just dropping an 8,000-pound cannon because she ate 8,000 pounds worth of cake. Like, that's not how it works. Like, she has a molecular understanding of how it works and is able to proportionally use her lipids to then create it. Like, this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of the quirk. It never says anywhere that they have to be of, like, equal weight or anything like that. Like, it is literally just proportionally sized the same. That is all. It is a basic misunderstanding of how this works, and I just, like, to call it a plot hole for that matter is very silly, because she even says that, like, her quirk, like, even if you were gonna go based off of her, it has to be an identical weight, it has to be an exact identical copy of the thing that she's making, then yeah, she's still saying, like, it still works for, like, smaller objects and smaller things and whatnot, especially because she's eating all the damn time and whatnot. So yeah, it like, you could argue that, sure, like, it'll still work, but this is just so ridiculous to me that it's a fundamental misunderstanding, and it's being used as a plot hole, and those aren't the same things. It's not a plot hole when, even by your own standards, it still fits the plot a solid chunk of the time. There's just it is occasionally more suitable than it should be, in your opinion, which it's not. You just don't understand how it works. Technology has barely changed in 1,000 years. All right. Here's the thing. I get technology has changed a lot recently, but, like, let's be honest here. Other than, like, what? Flying cars? What don't we have that was in science fiction, 100 years ago? I mean, seriously. How much further advanced do you want things to be for society? Like, what? Do you want all the buildings to be made out of chrome or something like that? And then she even goes on to talk about how, like, all the technological advancements that they've made have all been focused and geared towards quirks. Well, of course, that's the central focus of society. Like, every great society focuses on what they need. Like, the Mesopotamians, like, focused around the Tigris and Euphrates River, so that, like, all their technological advances were based on the agriculture of using the rivers to grow their crops, to not do like indoor plumbing, but like just meet their agricultural needs. You move on to later parts of society. You see the Industrial Revolution in Europe. You see factories and all that stuff, and how they were producing all these resources to modernize and produce more goods faster, more goods and services for people, to stimulate the economy and whatnot. Like, you focus on what the economy needs, what the world needs. And so if the world is a quirk-based world, of course they're going to focus technology on quirks. Like, like the last one was a basic misunderstanding of of the fundamentals of Momo's quirk. This is a basic misunderstanding of the fundamentals of technology and society and how society progresses. So how civilization progresses. Like, come on, really? All right, number 10. Oh, this was another one that had me heated. Izuku's father is never mentioned. I'm just gonna read this one all the way through for you because Izuku Midoriya lives with his mother, who has been raising him as a single parent, while his father works overseas. While Hirosoki does say that Izuku's dad will eventually make an appearance, the fact that he never talks about him is a pretty glaring omission. Not only does he never mention his missing dad, even when his friends are all talking about their families, he also never even seems to think about him. Could you interpret his fixation on All Might as an unexpressed need for a father figure? Well, look, I think it's pretty safe to say that we've gotten a very small glimpse of Izuku's life. We got the small snippets of him as a child with Bakugo and everything like that, but like that's it. A single parent, like there's so many other things going on in Izuku's life. Like, when do you expect him to sit down and be like, I'm really sad about my dad. I'm sad he's not here. And I know some could make the argument of like, well, we got to see, Todoroki and everything with his mom and Endeavor and all that jazz during the sports festival. Fine. You could also say we got to see the same thing with like Aravati. Yeah, sure. And how she wanted to be a hero to support her family. Yeah, sure, I suppose. But like, other than that, I mean, it's not really a... I think, like, what they're going for, like, I understand what she's going for here. I understand what she's trying to say. But, like, think about it. If your father was literally away for most of your life, working overseas, then, like, yeah, you probably wouldn't want to bring him up all the time. Like, he probably wouldn't be someone you wanted to just, like, casually talk about while your friends were talking about their happy times. If they're talking about, like, all their happy times and all the happy memories they have with their family, the good things that they have with their family, you bring up your mom, the one who's cared for you the whole time. You're not going to bring up your dad, who you barely ever see or anything like that. Like, I can say firsthand, as somebody like my grandpa, like, used to work all the time, and my dad, like, he never brings that up, like, when talking in public conversation. Like, he'll bring up like good memories with my grandma and whatnot. He didn't bring up my grandpa working overtime all the time. Like, people just don't do that. It's just not naturally how people talk, So I don't know. This is just, like, kind of weird. It's kind of weird to think that, like, yes, I know that, like, Deku can be somewhat of a quote-unquote crybaby, but, like, why would he just, like, bring up his dad, like, not being around all the time when people are talking about their family? It just seems so ridiculous. Like, he's not, like, some emo sad boy. Like, it's very silly. Hawks' age isn't that big of a deal. Again, this is another one where, like, I see where it's coming from, but, like, it's just wrong. Like, so... She talks about how, like, Endeavor does the same thing as Hawks at age 20 as opposed to age 18. So he's, like, just a little bit older and then, like, ends up being the number 2 hero and eventually the number 1. Well, Hawks ends up being the number 3. Why is that not a big deal? Like, I don't understand. Excuse me, hiccup. I don't understand why it can't be a big deal, for two people to extend to that height. Like, and for that matter, like, when someone sets a new record, that's still pretty monumental. It's still pretty groundbreaking. It's still a big deal, like, when someone sets the new record for, like, the youngest player to win a certain achievement, in a sport. Like if you for let's say for me, I'm a hockey fan. So like the youngest player to ever win the Rocket Richard Trophy, the youngest player to ever do that. When you get a new youngest player to ever do that, that's a new milestone. That's a new. It's exciting. It's a big deal. Like they even celebrate when players like someone broke the top 10 of most goals ever scored, or someone broke the top 10 of most games ever played. Not even the number 1 slot. So to say for him to be the youngest hero to ever do this after Endeavor did it, at a pretty similar age, like, so you're saying it's not a big deal that this kid did the exact same thing that the current number 1, former number 2 hero did at a slightly younger age? Like, of course that's a big deal. What? It's such a silly comment. Number 12, why did 9 need a specific healing quirk? Not even going to address this one. I'm going to say the same thing I said for number 3. The non-canon movie. And lastly, I went right past it. I see a weird face. Aizawa couldn't possibly have expelled that many students. And she even goes on to say that, he would be pretty much expelling like pretty much all of his students and whatnot. And everybody, if you look around online, first of all, there is an answer to this in the manga, chapter 254. I spoiled some stuff in the manga for myself just to prove with my own 2 eyes, with my own 2 eye holes, that there is an explanation for this at some point. First of all, he doesn't expel them. He just kicks them out of 1A, and then they end up coming back in 2A, and they have to learn from it. It's essentially, he explains it as the kids, a lot of kids don't see the difference between self-sacrificing and pretty much just going out and putting yourself on a suicide mission. There are a lot of students that don't understand the difference, and so this is kind of like their big awakening. That would be the closest that they could get to a death. This would be the biggest repercussion that they could get from not necessarily knowing the difference between what is self-sacrificing to be a good hero and what is just endangering yourself and others. And it's supposed to be this brutal wake-up call because it is a blemish on their permanent record, and it's supposed to be this kind of firing up and encouragement. And you even get you see some of these students that he expelled talking about how, like, yeah, it's kind of brutal, but like, it's made them determined to work even harder, and how they've started to succeed more in their classes now. And so it's like, again, I don't remember which one I said it for, but for the Shigaraki one, this is just a lack of patience and just the explanation comes. It's not a glaring plot hole, it even says point blank that he expels a whole class. That's true. She talks about it in this, how could he possibly do that? He'd have to expel almost all of his students. He does. He flat out did. He flat out expelled all his students. He then re-enrolled them for 2A, but he straight up expelled an entire class. It is said point blank, and so yes, this is absolutely the case. He's been around for a short period of time, but he's absolutely expelling a solid chunk of his students. There's really nothing else to say on that one, and it's explained later on, point blank in the story. It's just an impatience from an anime-only fan. It's not a glaring plot hole. You just need to do the slightest bit of research, like Geekdom says all the time. Just a quick Google search. All I did was Google it, and I found out I needed to go to chapter 254. I didn't go skimming through from where I was in the anime to chapter 254 until I found the answer to it. I did a Google search. I found it in 10 minutes. If you're gonna write an article like this, do the research. It's so ridiculous to sit here and make these claims that these are glaring plot holes that don't make any sense in the story, when in reality there are answers to these things. There are explanations for all these things that you claim are just don't make any sense. They do. You're just not paying attention, or you're not being patient. Manga takes time to build up. Anime takes time to build up. Y'all do realize that they're 20-minute episodes for these gigantic arcs. There are 300 chapters now of My Hero. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of content. It takes time to world build. There are a lot of pegs in place, and you just gotta let them get to those moments, get to those explanations before you start making judgments. And if you're gonna include non-canon arguments or non-canon plot points in your argument, then you might as well just you might as well just not make the argument at all. You know, it's like they don't actually matter. They didn't actually happen. So yeah, that's that. I don't know. This just kind of got me heated. I just felt like I needed to kind of debunk this for anybody who's a My Hero fan and maybe has stumbled upon these guys or sees these guys floating around on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You know, I see them floating around everywhere. I get targeted ads for them all the time. So yeah. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Did you guys like this? You guys want me to do more stuff like this? You know, let me know. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.